ambulance attack. In November 2019, a man in Rochester knocked on the door of a home late at night, claiming he was sick and needed someone to call an ambulance. The woman inside, 82-year-old Willie Murphy, called it as he requested, but refused to let him in. That angered him, and a moment later she heard a crash. He had broken through her door. What the man did not know about the small elderly woman living alone was that Willie Murphy was a World Natural Powerlifting Federation champion and 2014 Lifter of the Year, capable of deadlifting 225 pounds. She had been competing in weightlifting well into her 80s and trained regularly at her local YMCA. The intruder had no way of knowing any of this, and he was about to find out. With the lights off, she was able to hide and catch him off guard. She grabbed a table and smashed it over him so hard the table broke. That did not slow her down. She picked up the metal legs and kept going, then jumped on him when he fell to the floor. Then she ran to the kitchen. She grabbed a bottle of shampoo and poured the entire thing in his face while he was still on the ground. Then she grabbed a broom and kept hitting him until the police arrived. The intruder was taken away in an ambulance, and Murphy declined to press charges. She posed for selfies with the first responders on her front porch. Her own description of the whole situation was, "I'm alone and I'm old, but guess what? I'm tough." Bishnu Shrestha's train. On September 2nd, 2010, a group of around 40 armed bandits boarded the Maurya Express, a passenger train traveling through India. They moved through the carriages, robbing passengers of their cash and valuables. The passengers had little choice but to comply, and for a while, everything was going according to plan. Then the bandits reached one particular passenger. Bishnu Shrestha was asleep when they got to him, and when he woke, he was prepared to hand over his belongings. But then, an 18-year-old woman sitting next to him was grabbed by the robbers, who intended to rape her in front of her parents. What the bandits did not know about the quietly sleeping man beside her was that Bishnu Shrestha was a soldier in the Indian Army's 8th Gorkha Rifles, one of the most feared military units in the world. Gurkhas are Nepalese warriors with a centuries-old reputation for exceptional combat ability, and they carry a large curved blade called a kukuri at all times. That blade was about to become a serious problem for about 40 people. Shrestha drew his kukuri and launched a counterattack. The fight lasted around 20 minutes. He engaged the 40 armed attackers by himself, killing 3 of them and severely injuring 8 others. At one point, they fired a shot at him that missed. They eventually managed to wrest the blade from his hand and cut him with it, wounding his left hand, but by then, the damage was done. The remaining bandits fled in panic. When the girl's family offered him a 300,000 rupee cash reward afterward, he refused it. He said, "Fighting the enemy in battle is my duty as a soldier. Taking on the thugs on the train was my duty as a human being." The viral thief. In the summer of 2013, a German tourist was on holiday in Ibiza with a group of friends. The night ended with the decision to go skinny dipping in the Mediterranean. However, when they came back out of the water, their clothes and belongings were gone. Among the missing items was an iPhone belonging to one of the women in the group. That would normally be where the story ends. But the thief, a man from Dubai whose name turned out to be Hafid, made one critical oversight. He never deleted the Dropbox app on the phone, and he never disabled the automatic photo upload feature. As a result, every single photo he took on the device was uploading directly to the original owner's cloud storage account in real time. She could see everything. She started a Tumblr blog called Life of a Stranger Who Stole My Phone, posting the photos Hafid was taking while he had absolutely no idea. The blog followed Hafid's daily life in Dubai, from posing in front of landmarks with his friends to events. The blog went viral almost immediately, accumulating thousands of followers, and Hafid almost certainly never suspected all of this existed. The blog simply went quiet after a while, with the owner posting a final message saying she hadn't heard from Hafid in a long time, that the photos had stopped coming, and that she assumed he had moved on and found a new phone. The Ecole-Valentine Incident. On a Sunday evening in June 2016, 2 men in their 20s walked into a McDonald's in Ecole-Valentine, a small commune in eastern France. The plan was straightforward. They fired a shotgun at the ceiling, yelled at the customers to get on the floor, and one of them took around 2,000 euros from the registers. What they had not noticed was who was sitting in the restaurant with them. 11 of the roughly 40 customers inside were off-duty members of the GIGN, the French Special Forces unit described as among the most effective anti-terrorist terror forces in Europe. The two robbers had walked into a room containing some of the most trained individuals in the country. The officers did not move during the robbery. They waited for the heist to finish so as not to put the other customers in danger. The moment the two men tried to leave, 9 of the officers went after them. They caught the first robber when he stumbled on a staircase. The second one kept running, and at one point, he turned and took aim at the officers pursuing him. They fired warning shots and told him to stop. He took aim again, and they shot him in the abdomen. Both men were taken to hospital and charged with armed robbery. None of the staff or customers were hurt. The medieval battle. On the night of November 6, 2019, a 33-year-old man named Alex Rawls showed up at an apartment in Michigan looking for his ex-girlfriend. She had moved away specifically to put distance between herself and him, but Rawls did not know this. He also did not know anything about whoever was now living there. It was Ben Ball, a 36-year-old man who was sitting at home watching TV and playing video games. When the loud knocking started, he answered the door, and he told Rawls his former roommate was in Florida. Then he simply went back to his evening. 2 hours later, the knocking started again, and then the unexpected happened. The door came off its frame. Rawls had broken in. What he had no way of knowing, however, was that Ball was a medieval combat practitioner whose apartment was filled with replica weapons dating back to the Viking Age. He owned Nordic swords, daggers, armor, and his personal favorite, a double-headed carbon steel battle axe. The moment the door came open, Ball grabbed the axe. His own description of what followed was brief. Door opened, grabbed the axe, then step, hit. The axe connected with Rawls at least once in the torso. The two then grappled through the apartment, destroying the place. Eventually, Rawls gave up and ran. Police deployed a K-9 unit and followed a trail of blood directly to him. Rawls spent the night in hospital before being taken to jail, where he faced a charge of first-degree home invasion. The Clifton Man. In the late 1970s, the streets of Bristol had a serious problem. A mystery attacker, over the course of 18 months, had attacked and sexually assaulted 7 women as they walked home at night. Fear was spreading fast, and demonstrations were being held across the city. Police were under pressure to act, so they launched something unusual. Male police officers dressed up in long blonde wigs, stockings, high-heeled shoes, and padded bras and walked the city streets. Female officers were also sent out in plain clothes as part of the operation, which was called Operation Argus. These officers were, of course, used as bait. Night after night, the team went out, hoping to catch the man they believed drove a yellow Ford Capri. Then, in the early hours of March 23, 1979, something happened. A sergeant spotted the Capri, and he realized the driver matched the photo fit that had been circulating. The car was following one of the officers on foot, a 24-year-old rookie named Michelle Leonard. What the man in that car did not know was that there were 5 other officers watching from observation points along her route. He also did not know he was targeting a trained police officer. Evans grabbed Michelle and told her, "Don't scream or I'll kill you." Within seconds, the nearby officers closed in and tackled him to the ground. They found out it was Ronald Evans, a man who had previously been jailed for life for murder, but was released on parole in 1975 and had moved to Bristol before beginning his attacks. He was then released on license in 2018, becoming one of Britain's longest-serving prisoners, having previously served over 50 years behind bars. However, in 2023, at 82 years old, while volunteering at a community center in London, he sexually assaulted another woman, earning him another 4 years in prison. The Acid Bathtub. Between 1944 and 1949, John George Hay murdered at least 5 people using the exact same gruesome method, dissolving their remains in sulfuric acid. In 1949, he befriended Olive Duran Deacon, a wealthy 69-year-old widow. When she mentioned a business idea she was developing for artificial fingernails, Hay lured her to his workshop under the pretense of helping her. She trusted him, but tragically, he killed her there and dissolved her body in acid, just as he had done to his previous victims. This time, however, Hay made a fatal error, which you'll soon understand. Unlike his earlier crime scenes, this workshop lacked easy access to a manhole, forcing him to dump the resulting sludge directly into the backyard. Overconfident, he even helped report the widow missing to the police. Then, to his surprise, investigators searched the property and discovered the sludge in the yard. In a normal situation, it would have looked like unrecognizable waste with no obvious connection to a human body. However, the investigators found something incredibly weird. 3 gallstones and, most crucially, a complete set of upper dentures alongside a partial lower denture. As it turned out, the acrylic material of the dentures resisted the acid entirely. Mrs. Duran Deacon's dentist confirmed he had crafted those exact dentures, identifying them with absolute certainty. Hay was executed for his crimes in August 1949. The Venomous Bag. On a Saturday night in early January 2003, a thief in Sydney spotted what looked like an easy opportunity. A canvas bag was sitting on the passenger seat of a 4-wheel drive, stopped at traffic lights. The thief yanked open the car door and grabbed it. What he did not know was anything about the driver or his profession. The car belonged to Bradley McDonald, a snake handler, who had just caught a snake in a nearby car park and placed it in that very bag. Inside was a venomous 4-foot red-bellied black snake, very much alive. The red-bellied black snake is one of Australia's more recognizable venomous species. Its venom can cause significant pain, swelling, and other serious symptoms, and the snake defends itself if it feels cornered or threatened, which inside a stolen bag in the hands of a panicking thief, it almost certainly would have. Luckily for him, that didn't happen, and the thief abandoned the bag shortly after stealing it, once he presumably realized what was inside. McDonald said, "It might teach him a lesson. The snake is the innocent party in this." Zaz's revenge. If you're going to steal a computer, the absolute worst person to steal it from is a professional cybersecurity expert. In 2010, a hacker known by the handle Zaz was giving a presentation at DEF CON, one of the world's largest hacker conventions, when he revealed that his apartment had been burglarized and his computer stolen. What the thief didn't know was that Zaz had installed remote access security software on his device. He also made one more critical mistake. He never wiped the hard drive. The moment the thief connected to the internet, Zaz began silently monitoring him. He installed a tool that lets you see and control another computer's screen to watch exactly what the person using it was doing in real time. He logged his keystrokes, capturing usernames, passwords, and anything else the thief typed into the machine, read his emails, and watched him browse the web. Zaz compiled a massive, hilariously detailed dossier on the thief's life, his location, and his illegal activities. The thief, identified as Melvin Guzman, spent a significant amount of time browsing adult websites and taking pictures of himself for online dating profiles. Guzman apparently really loved dating sites, and between those accounts, the photos, and other activity, Zaz was able to identify him by name and pinpoint his exact address. He handed everything over to the police on a silver platter, which raided the thief's house and recovered the stolen goods. Zaz got to present the entire humiliating operation at DEF CON 18, and the audience absolutely loved it. The McVey Case. This case is different from the others because the person who ended up changing everything was not a trained fighter or an undercover officer. She was just a 17-year-old girl. On the night of November 3rd, 1984, Lisa McVey had just finished a late shift and was riding her bike home. Around 2 a.m., as she passed a church parking lot, a man jumped out from the darkness, grabbed her by the neck, dragged her off her bike, and pressed a gun to her temple. That man was Bobby Joe Long. By the time he grabbed Lisa, he had already murdered 8 women and more than 50 others across the Tampa Bay area. To him, she was just another victim, but she wasn't. While blindfolded and held captive for 26 hours, she memorized every detail she could. She intentionally left her fingerprints on surfaces in his bathroom, committed the route they traveled to memory, and took note of anything she could feel or hear around her. She also manipulated Long psychologically. She offered to be his secret girlfriend and told him she was the only child of a sick father, trying to make him see her as a person. Her plan worked, and he let her go. When she got to the police, the information she gave them was precise enough to track him down. Officers arrested Bobby Joe Long just 13 days after he released her. Long sat on death row for 34 years. Then, on May 23, 2019, Lisa McVey, now a master deputy in the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, sat in the witness room at Florida State Prison and watched him die by lethal injection. The Corti Incident. In 2008, 23-year-old Gregory McCallium had a dispute with his 72-year-old neighbor, Frank Corti, possibly holding a grudge over a noise complaint submitted by the Cortis that same morning. The younger man decided to do something about it. He broke into his neighbor's home and confronted Frank directly. Given their age difference, the intruder likely thought it would be an easy fight, but his night was about to go very wrong. McCallium threw a knife at the older man, who simply sidestepped it. What the attacker didn't know was that his target was a former Royal Engineer engineer soldier who had boxed competitively in the 1950s. Corti landed 2 quick punches to the face, instantly dropping the 24-year-old. He then made a citizen's arrest, keeping the man pinned to the ground until police arrived. When McCallium showed up to court with a black eye and swollen lip, his own lawyer reportedly remarked that he looked like a car accident. The judge at Oxford Crown Court told him he got what he deserved before sentencing him to 4.5 years in prison. Escape the escape room. In the early hours of July 8, 2018, a 40-year-old man named Ry Daniel Wardlaw broke into a business in a strip mall in Vancouver. The business was Northwest Escape Experience, an escape room where groups work together, find clues, and solve puzzles in order to escape locked rooms. Unfortunately for him, Wardlaw had no idea what he had walked into. He grabbed a non-working phone from the front desk, a television remote, and a can of beer from the fridge, and wandered into one of the unlit rooms. According to the owner, the sheriff later described him as seemingly settling in to have a breakfast burrito and a beer. What went wrong was the exit. Wardlaw had done so much damage to the back door trying to get in that he could no longer open it to get out. He also apparently did not know how to use the lock on the front door. So, in total panic, he did the only thing he could think of. He called 911 multiple times. By the time officers arrived, Wardlaw had managed to get out on his own, but deputies found him still lurking around the strip mall and arrested him. He was charged with second-degree burglary. The owner of the business had one final word on the matter. He said, "I'm proud to say I'm the only escape room in the Northwest that has a 100% capture rate of criminals." If you want to discuss this video or suggest an idea for the next one, join my Discord.